So about a month ago, I'm at this place called Main Street. And Main Street is a place in St. Louis that has a strip of bars along it. And it's got other places as well. It's got some restaurants. It's got there's an attorney office. You could clothing stores. But there's also a place where there's a handful of bars. And there used to be more bars. But about a year-ish ago, the city of St. Charles, which is where Main Street is, which is it's maybe 10, 15 minutes from St. Louis. So it's basically right next to St. Louis. You just drive a little bit, you get to another place. It's called St. Charles. And the reason that there's less bars now than there was before is St. Charles, which is where all these bars are at. It's where Main Street's at. They came out, the people that were in charge of it came out with this rule where before you could just sell alcohol if you wanted to sell alcohol. If you wanted to sell food, you could sell food and everything was good. About a year-ish ago, they came out with a rule where a percentage of all the bar's sales had to be food. A percentage of all the bar's sales had to be food. And the reason they did this, from my limited understanding of it, is they were happy with it being bars, but they didn't want it to turn into too big of a nightclub bar scene. So they figured if they made a rule, a law, where the bars could sell alcohol, but a percentage of their sales had to be from food, then it would kind of encourage more of a, less clubby feel and maybe more of a overall family community feel because, it's more food. And unfortunately, there was a handful of bars in St. Charles on that little strip that are not there anymore because they couldn't keep up with the rules. Some of them specifically opened up mainly for some of them were selling food before and some of them adapted, but some of them opened up and were structured. And the whole theme of them was just for a bar environment. These businesses did absolutely nothing wrong. It was not their fault. They did not know this when they opened up. This rule didn't even exist. But, unfortunately, things happen. And, things happen. That's sometimes not your fault in business. And some of these bars couldn't adapt properly, so they are now shut down. There's a handful of them that are shut down. Just one of the big news stories that's happening now is in California, where Lyft and Uber have been operating for a while now. And everyone seems to be happy with them. The drivers are happy because, if the drivers weren't really happy with Uber or Lyft, they'd probably find another job. And if they couldn't get another job, then that means they need to, improve their skills so they become more valuable to the marketplace. But pretty much the, Uber and Lyft in California. California is a big state. Lots of people have Uber and Lyft down there and use Uber and Lyft. People, decent amount of people have money down there. So the Uber drivers, the Lyft drivers like it. They're making money. The customers like it because, they're able to, it seems to be on average a little bit cheaper, a little bit more effective, a little bit easier to get than a taxi, and everyone's happy. Well, unfortunately, as some of you guys know, there's news now where California is wanting to change the structure of Uber and Lyft in California. So instead of it being where the Uber and Lyft drivers are basically self-employed, they want them to be employed. And that would put a whole lot of responsibility and extra expenses on Uber and Lyft. And Uber and Lyft basically said, if this happens, we're just going to not operate in California. It would be dramatically too expensive to change over, and we just won't operate in that state. Uber and Lyft did absolutely nothing wrong. They structured their business perfectly. Everyone was happy. They followed all the laws and regulations, but now, California came out and is trying to, and they're still fighting this. And they're trying to make it where, in the near future, Uber and Lyft will be structured differently, which would basically make it very hard for Uber and Lyft to make money in those states. So Uber and Lyft are basically saying, you know what? This is not our fault. We did not know this going into this. We've been making great money in there for a while, but we just won't operate in this state if they end up forcing us to make these changes and basically make the Uber and Lyft drivers more of employees and not self-employed individuals. One of the things that that's really kind of stuck with me is when I was about 3 years ago, I was working at T-Mobile, and before that, I worked at AT&T. And I remember when I was but I was in the sales training with AT&T. And in the sales training class, the trainer, he told us a very interesting story. And I'm probably not going to get all the facts correct, but it was something along the lines of this. He said, you know this area in St. Louis? And pretty much everyone in St. Louis knew the area. This area was a very wealthy area. And it kind of had old money. And it was a pretty big area. It was like, in the St. Louis, and St. Louis is broken up in a little smaller places. It was one of the smaller places, one of the smaller, I guess, towns, you might call it. I think is the proper name for it. I'm not 100% sure, to be honest with you. But this, we'll just call it this, sub-town of St. Louis. It was where it was old money and where a lot of wealthy people lived. And just driving through there, you could get a feel that it was kind of kept differently. Like even the stores there, a lot of the stores were kind of it didn't look like you could have bricks. It seemed like the majority of the stores, the outside of the stores had to be white on the outside, and it looks like they couldn't have certain structures. It looks like they wanted it to have a certain feel. And the instructor at AT&T was telling us that this rich area that has a lot of rich people that live there, golf courses, and they got, there's food places and stuff like that and business places. He said that AT&T had problems, had challenges, had difficulties getting telephone poles up in that area. In fact, that area actually came out and said, we are going to make it illegal where you can't have telephone poles in the area. Why is that? Because they want a certain image. They want the whole area to have a certain image. I'm sure the grass can't grow above a certain length. The buildings have to be they got to look a certain way. They can't have certain things. They got to, they can't be too tall. They can't be too standoutish. They got to have all these little things. And one of the things to help keep the overall vibe of the community is that they don't want these ugly, tall, random telephone poles just sticking up out of nowhere. And they don't want to have the wires. It would just they believe that it would water down the way the area looks. And AT&T could have said, you know what? This is not our fault. And it is not their fault. It was not their fault. It was not their fault. AT&T could have said, these dumb, rich, stupid idiots are making it impossible for us to get telephone poles in there. So what we're going to do is, even if they put the new ones where it's just they need a big tower with no wires, they still need to put those up there. Said, you know what? We're just not going to give these rich people service. It's their own fucking fault for being idiots. But AT&T understood that even though it wasn't their fault, if they want to make money, they need to be able to solve this problem. So AT&T got to work. AT&T understood that, all right, let's see if we could be creative. How could I solve this problem? Even though this is not my fault, I'm going to take responsibility for it because it does directly affect my business, even though it's not my fault. How can I solve this? Now, if you drive through this rich area, every now and then you'll notice something kind of strange. One of the things you may notice is a telephone pole that's usually, let's say it's usually this thick. Now the telephone pole is maybe 4 times wider than usual. And it goes up a little bit taller than normal. And you'll see other kind of a little bit strange looking structures throughout the area. If you were to take that telephone pole and you were to cut it open and look inside, you would find AT&T cell phone towers. AT&T solved that problem by putting their cell phone towers in various places where they can get signal to this rich area, and now they can expand their market share and get more customers and make more money in that area. It wasn't their fault, but they solved that problem. The number one skill that I see that phone flippers, electronic business owners have that make them a lot of money, that separate them from everyone else, you got to have time. You got to be consistent. You got to have the right information. You got to take action. But I would say probably the number one thing amongst everything else is being able to solve problems. Being able to solve problems in their business, even if it's not the electronic business owner's fault. I see there's two types of people. There's the first type of people, they play the victim mentality. Why did this bad thing happen to me? Why did the customer flake? Why does the customer want so much money for their item? Why do my ads don't stick? And they have a victim mentality, and they just kind of moan and whine and bitch and complain. And they spend their time doing that. The other people, the people I see that really crush it, that make a lot of money, is they run into the same problems. They have customers flake. They have people show up with the wrong item. They have their ads don't stick. They get eBay scammers just like everyone else's. However, they go about the problem differently. They say, you know what? I did not create this problem. But because this is my business, because I'm going to take responsibility for this, if I could fix this problem, it could help take my business forward. If I solve this challenge that I'm running into, even if it's not your fault, by you fixing this, by you overcoming this challenge, what it does is it takes your business to the next level because you start to get ads to stick that you otherwise weren't getting sticking. Now you're getting more leads. You learn better negotiating, so you're able to get people down in price. A good electronic business owner can get a good percentage of people down in price and get them to happily agree to sell you their item at the price you want to pay for it, not the price the customer wants. They deal with scammers on eBay, but they have the right structure, the right scripts. I actually got a video. I outlined the next level that shows how to deal with that. And by doing these different things and solving these different problems, it allows them to grow. And also it allows their business to improve because they run into these problems and instead of being a victim, they solve it. They overcome it. They might not overcome it right away. Sometimes you got to watch some training videos and test stuff out, sometimes for a couple weeks. Sometimes for me to get ads to stick on platforms, especially if there's an update, it might take me a few weeks or a month of testing lots of different things, having to open up new accounts, trying different experiments. But once I can figure out how to get ads to stick, then I can run with it for a long time. Leads come in and it takes my business to the next level. So my challenge for you, if you're watching this, if you have an electronic resale business and you want to make more money, next time you run into problems, and problems are good, the essence of being successful is problem solving, as Alex Becker says. Understand that problems will come up. We're not trying to avoid problems here. Problems are good. Problems are fine. It's actually a sign that you're growing, because if you weren't growing and taking certain actions, you actually wouldn't be running into problems. So problems are a good thing. But when you run into the problems, think about this video and pay attention to how you react. Are you a victim? Do you whine? Do you complain? Do you have a why does this happen to me? Or do you have a mindset of, okay, this happened. It sucked that it happened. I don't like that it happened. I hate every time I run into a problem. I just understand that it's part of business. And even if I didn't create the problem, even if I didn't cause the problem, even if it's a problem that's 100% on the customer, I know that I need to solve that problem. Because if I can solve that problem, that will take my business to the next level. That will help me close more deals, get people down in price. If the customer shows up with the wrong item, if I know how to reappraise it and renegotiate it on the spot, I can get that deal instead of losing that deal. All of these little things allow me to make more money. So that's what I got for you guys. That is the number one tip, the number one thing that separates electronic resale business owners that make a lot of money from just my experience and what I found in observing, and people that continue to struggle for months or even years and never have massive success.